This week's talk is called How You Can Stop Race Consciousness from Running Your Life. And as always, I've got a couple of quotes for you. The first one from Dr. Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind. Anything that has ever been thought at any time in the history of man exists today in a subjective state in universal mind. When we get into the field of mind, there is no past, no present, or future. They merge into one medium. The next quote, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And that is Marianne Williamson. And lastly, well-behaved women seldom make history. Laurel Thatcher Ehrlich. And so there you have it. You have our quotes for today. And maybe you think that race consciousness isn't running your life, that all the decisions and beliefs and choices you make come from the deepest part of you, no matter what others say, think, or believe around you. Well, look again. It takes a lot of vigilance to get beyond race consciousness. Our default way of being. Anytime we fall into our default way of being, that default includes all kinds of race consciousness ideas and beliefs. How about you have to be realistic? Or as we get older, our immune system weakens. Or there's limited resources, so we have to be sure of how we use them. Or it's too expensive to live in LA. You know, there's all kinds of thoughts that come in from the outside that have been with us since we were like little kids. And these thoughts make us doubt. So here's the truth about all this, that we live in an ever-expanding universe with unlimited resources where anything is possible, except that we, each one of us, limits what is possible by the use of the most powerful tool in the universe. Our minds. So we limit what is possible, not the universe. And yet, if you are anything like me, no matter how many miracles occur in your life, after one occurs, if enough time passes before the next one, you begin to doubt. What if the next one isn't coming? What if I've used up my allotment of miracles? I am here to tell you that if any doubt you have, that each of us has the power for a miraculous life. That doubt is built inside of race consciousness. That doubt has grown out of tens of thousands of years of folks who didn't know they had the power to change their circumstances and bought into some of the deepest, darkest superstitions that continue on today in one form or another. Here's an example. We're limited by the physical universe. How's that for a superstition? And what makes it a superstition? It's unprovable, and yet so many people believe it to be true. Race consciousness that has seeped into your subconscious in ways affect you in every day of your life. My favorite story about race consciousness is from the movie The Ten Commandments. That movie cracks me up. Here's this guy, Moses, going to the Pharaoh, telling him to free the Jews. And each time the Pharaoh refuses, he brings down some terrible miracle upon the people of Egypt, always passing over the Jews, right? So, and this goes on, miracle after miracle for 10 days until finally the Pharaoh sets them free, but quickly changes his mind, so he sends his forces after the escaped Jews. Well, the Jews are at the Red Sea, and what are they doing? Are they reveling in the fact that miracles have released them from bondage, so of course the next miracle will save them now? No! They're freaking out that they're doomed and what a mistake they made, and they should have never believed in miracles in the first place. And couldn't they just go back to that safe and warm place where the Egyptians were beating on them daily? Instead of believing in the next miracle, they become romantic about what happened in the past, wish for the good old days where they were tortured and killed every single day. But Moses knows the truth. So he doesn't buy into the race consciousness. In fact, he challenges it. And without anybody else believing, he makes the Red Sea part, lets the Jews pass, and after they pass, closes it again on the Egyptian army. So would you think at this point the Jews would finally buy in and believe that, of course, there's a next miracle coming? No, that doesn't happen either. So now they're at Mount Sinai, and Moses says, hang out here while I go up and talk to God and get things straight about infinite power, and I'll come back down and tell you what he says. So while he's up on the mountain, communing with the divine, what happens? The folks downstairs who are running short of food start freaking out. They start making golden idols. They start wishing they were back in Egypt to the good old days where at least they had some food rather than no food. And Moses comes down and sees once again they're full of doubt in their race consciousness. He freaks out once again and he goes, behold, another miracle to prove, and brings bread called manna down from the sky so they can all eat. So now they're all like, woo, woo, woo. Of course miracles work. But of course we know today that we're still not convinced. No matter how many miracles we have in our lives, we are still not convinced that the next one is coming. So, how many times do you have to freak out about being hungry, before you fully understand and embody the truth about what powerful, creative, spiritual beings we are? This example of the Israelites, the Jews there, and what they did is an example of what most of us are doing every day. Do you know that there are just a handful of folks throughout history who totally knew and embodied that, of course, we can create anything out of nothing and we can do it any second we need? And the rest of us are still struggling in this full race consciousness. And that's what I'm here to talk about. So what is the step? Since this talk is how to stop being run by that race consciousness, the first step is awareness. The first step is realizing that's what it is we're doing. And here's how you know you're stuck inside a race consciousness thought. Any thought that diminishes you, any thought that makes you feel less than who you are, any thought that doesn't bring you into the realization of the fullness of the God being you are, is a race consciousness thought and needs to be recognized as such. Anytime we get stuck in the idea that this physicalness, this thing that we have, this thing that we're dealing with inside, called our body, and this thing out here called the computer or called the ground or whatever, once we start making that more real than the power that is within us, we have bought into a race consciousness. And the first step is the awareness of that. The first step is knowing that this is not the truth. The truth is that we are powerful, creative, spiritual beings, and that our lives work magnificently as long as we buy into the fact that this is an ever-expanding universe, unlimited and infinite in resources, and that it is at our command with the most powerful tool the universe has, our minds. And so what is the second? The second step is action. And what is that action? Reminding ourselves time and time again, wait a minute, what somebody else is calling realistic, what I just called realistic isn't. It's an illusion created by a race consciousness that I get to change in this very moment by the use of the most powerful tool in the universe, my mind. That is the second step, action. Action in the way of going within, action in the way of bringing without that which we know to be the absolute truth. You want to get stuck in common sense? Your life will be common. You don't want that. I don't want that. I want an extraordinary life. Now, let me be clear. When I am talking about an extraordinary life, I'm not talking about you have to do big and great things. I'm talking about you bring fully forth who you have come here to be. You bring fully forth what we speak about in our identity prayer. And if you are one of those that don't know what our identity prayer is, it will pop up on the screen at the end of this talk. We live in an ever-expanding universe. We can live an uncommon life, but it's up to us to put common sense aside, to then bring in what others may see as ridiculous, as the truth of who we really are. Get beyond any thought that diminishes you to expand you into the powerful, creative, spiritual being you are that lives in an infinite universe, able to create infinite wonders. And you have the power to direct this infinite force in your personal life. Period. This is no and, no but. Period. But you got to stand for that. It will show up on whatever ways in which you stand. You have to stand for it every moment of every day. Don't buy into common sense. Rise above to the uncommon. Know it's possible and let the miracles continue. And remember, what you give multiplies abundantly. So give to our ministry and watch your life expand miraculously. Thank you. I love you.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God.